Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let's see. I am not connected yet. Okay, I should be live now. Hi, everybody. Finally, we made it. We're only 14 minutes late. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties. Um, I'm really excited to be here. It's been a while. I was away and Annie was away and now we're back. So, as you're joining us, we're going to be talking today about how to challenge the negative voices that poison ADHD brains. And it looks like we're starting to have some folks join. Let me know where you're from, and I'd love to welcome you. I haven't seen where anyone's from yet, so you might be the first person to get a hello. I know it's not much of an enticement, but it's better than nothing. Um, so say hi and let me know where you are, where you're coming from. So as you have Gillian is from Scotland. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for saying hi. What a nice shout out that is. And I am having multiple computer problems today. It's really unfortunate because I'm so happy to be back. And I'm excited to be with all of you. So we're going to get started today. Let's welcome everybody. Recently, one of you asked me not to do a lot of welcoming in the middle of my once our session has already started, which I completely understand. So I'm going to do all my welcoming now, and when I pause or I take a break, I'll welcome everybody else at that time. Anyway, hello, hello, happy July. Let's see who we have here. Who's joining us? Jillian from Scotland, Jason from Central North Carolina, Lisa from Alaska, or Eliza from Alaska. It's great that you're here. Matt from Brighton, and Tracy from New Paltz, New York. Mitzi from Metairie, Louisiana. Susan Richardson, what is going wrong? California. Hold on, I'm going to get something to fix my screen, so give me 1 second. Because I look very low on the screen and I want to fix that. There we go. Isn't that so much better? Yeah, that's better. Let's see. Hello, Christine from Ottawa, and Amanda from Texas, and Raushan. Nice to have you here. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate that. Okay, and Susan is from Los Angeles, Jason from Maryland. We got people from all over. It's wonderful. Craig from Seattle, Val from Southwest Missouri, Kelly from Maine, and Ann from St. George, Utah. Welcome, welcome. And hi, Michaela from Austin, Texas. So today we're going to be talking about that really annoying negative voice in our heads, which can just bring us down and make us feel really bad about ourselves. And because we're going to be talking a little bit about mindfulness, I have a downloadable to share with you here. So check it out. It's mindfulness strategies, and I think hopefully you'll really like it. And if you can share that, that would be great. So have you ever noticed how people with ADHD, regardless of their age, remember the negative things that people say about them more than the positive ones? And while all human beings are wired for the negativity bias, the minds of people with ADHD seem particularly vulnerable to holding on to what is bad about them. Most likely, this pattern developed over many years of criticism for not remembering things, for not doing things properly, for not being able to control yourself, for missing cues, for not hearing things, etc., etc. I'm curious if you could put in the chat what are some of the types of feedback you've heard that are negative criticisms. I would really love to hear that. I'm also not seeing, okay, the comments are there, yeah. Sorry, little distractedness there. Um, anyway, so if you could share in the chat a little bit about what are some of the ways that you've heard negative comments, or what are some of the negative comments that you've heard. That would be, I think, a great way for us to kick off our summer series. Again, here we are again in July. Now, our ancestors needed the ability to learn and remember lessons from bad experiences for survival. And today, what we don't need, we still need to learn from challenges to get by and tolerate disappointment and survive, but it's not, the stakes aren't usually as high. And so what happens is we hear these negative comments about ourselves and we internalize them and we start to tell them to ourselves as if it's the truth. So some of the comments I'm seeing here are: the fact that I am hard on myself is criticized. Why don't you ever pay attention? Just quit teaching. You don't have a job yet, not understanding why I would throw it away. Chad says staring when I'm thinking. Craig says forgetting or not listening. So there are lots of little ways in which we hear negative comments about how we're living and what we're doing that have actually been very hurtful to us over the period of time that we've grown up and that we're living today in the world. All right, so here's what I'd like to talk a little bit about, which is the role of internal speech. So, we all have an internal monologue, and it's that little voice in your head. And this little voice in your head can be a precursor to action, speaking or doing, and it can also be a reflection of sort of a thwarted action. For example, the message is there, but the motor commands are stopped after the message has been issued because you realize that's not the thing that you want to be doing, or maybe that's not the best choice. Now, a lot of the work on this internal speech comes from the work of a psychologist named Lev Vygotsky. He was a Russian psychologist, and he determined that the most fundamental function of what we call internal speech is self-regulation. So those of us with ADHD understand that self-regulation, if it's fundamentally linked to this internal speech, is very complicated. So sometimes internal speech can be seen as what we call sub-vocalizing. You're mumbling or you're talking to yourself along the way. How many of you, if you want to just say yes or no, how many of you talk to yourselves to talk through things as you're doing them? I know I do that sometimes. And we'll see kids do this, of course, too. And so internal monologues are related to a key aspect of verbal working memory. And we know that working memory is a cornerstone of the executive functioning skills and often a challenge for people with ADHD. What we do in terms of working memory, the way it works is that we repeat things so that we can manipulate them, store them, and organize all kinds of information that whatever our working memory holds and does an operation on can then be transferred down the memory line into longer term memory. Internal speech is also affected by inhibition or lack thereof. You may have a thought or an idea, but you may then you may speak to yourself to prevent yourself from doing actions that might not be the most effective choice. Internal speech can help with task switching. You cue yourself to do something, and it also can assist with planning and problem solving. When we're stressed, internal speech is often experienced as overwhelming, distracting, and negative. So let's look at some of the comments here. I'd like to hear what people are saying here. All right. Okay. I'm slow at learning. My teacher at school said that all the time. That doesn't sound very kind for a teacher. For myself and my ADHD teen daughter, it's mostly beginning self-talk and comparison. Michelle, you're paying as much attention to that book as a crisp packet. Don't understand that. Alexandria, always thinking about what I could have said in a situation. Yes, so many of us struggle with that, particularly if you have a little bit of social anxiety, or, you're in a situation and you're not sure exactly how to respond, but you think of the perfect thing after the situation. Does that happen to you? Happens to me for sure. Jason says, I'm the one delivering the negative comments. I'm trying to be more aware of this when talking to my 15-year-old. Good for you for noticing it and learning as well. Math challenges, same to 2 teens with ADHD, and you have it as well. Tara says yes. Mirka says yes. Mitzi says yes. Tara says yes. Christine says so much criticism. Oops, hello. So much criticism related to being productive when I don't have to be somewhere like work. Much of it coming from my non-ADHD spouse. That is hard. That is very difficult. And now when we look at internal speech and self-regulation, we know that internal speech is most helpful when it resembles like a typical structured conversation. Now, Professor Vygotsky theorized that most young children internalize patterns of conversations that they have learned at home or at daycare or at preschool, conversations that have helped them inhibit behavior or exert behavior, exercise emotional control, or speak freely or act freely, direct their attention to what's going on around them or what's about to happen. Now, to enhance self-regulation, these internal monologues, this internal speech, has to remember a structured conversation rather than something that's just, random words or a word salad, because we are talking to ourselves the way we may talk to someone else or someone may talk to us. For many people with ADHD, the ability to internalize this kind of self-speech develops more slowly and reflects challenges with their working memory while simultaneously limiting working memory development. It also can limit inhibition, flexibility, planning, and problem solving. A lot of times this internal speech can feel like chatter, and particularly when it's negative, it's kind of like this neighborhood that you don't want to go to in your own mind, right? It occupies a lot of your attention, and it can feel intrusive at its worst and a helpful guide at its best. When it's negative, it produces anxiety, low self-esteem, and shame. When it's positive, it can help you integrate and recall good things and build self-confidence. How many of you notice that you have internal speech, that you have ways of talking to yourself? And are those ways, would you categorize them as more negative than positive? Do they encourage you to do something, or are they mostly just sitting there, wagging their fingers, telling you how it should be versus what you're actually doing? There are a few comments here. Let's see what people are saying. Okay. Alexandria says, I also do the pregame of talking in my trying to anticipate a conversation. Okay, so you sort of talk through what you might say in a certain situation. I do that a lot with my clients. We call that role plays. They're not sure what to say. So I might play them in a situation, or they may play themselves, and we go back and forth like doing that. And that can be really helpful to do with someone you care about, or a little bit with yourself. Michaela, your inside voice, your internal voice is a to-do list. So that sounds kind of stressful to me, an ongoing to-do list of what you should, really should be getting to. And I have that a little bit too. I think a lot of people try to do that to maybe hold on to what it is that they have to do. Some people with ADHD think if I don't hold it in my head, it's not going to happen. When in reality, the best thing to do is to write it down and not try to hold it in your head, because the stress of holding in your head makes the likelihood that you're going to forget it greater. Tara says, rarely able to navigate small talk conversations without feeling stupid. And like I just do not get it. It feels like it's too much for my work for my ADHD brain, and I should have figured it out years and years ago and cannot fit in seamlessly like so many others seem to. You know, Tara, I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of people with and without ADHD, but certainly with ADHD, struggle with small talk. They don't like it. They don't know what to say. They kind of have a kind of intensity. They want to get into the meat of a conversation or a topic. And yet sometimes small talk is really important because it's the beginning of being able to connect and dive deeper with folks. Jason says, my internal speech is lost with a simple distraction externally. Right, so you're holding something in your head, you think you've got it, and then someone outside of you may say or do something, and suddenly you've lost the thought you had or what you were saying. I think that happens to a lot of people. Mirka says, flexibility is a problem sometimes when at work, especially when new at work. You really kind of want to hold on to some structures and have things that you know where they are and what you're doing. That makes sense to me. Tracy, my son is so self-flagellating internally, unproductive and self-destructive. That makes me sad. Yes, negative self-talk. Susan, thank you. Paula, my internal speak won't stop telling me what I should be doing all the time. So we're going to get to what we can do to sort of turn the volume down on that negative voice very soon. Tara says, when I prepare ahead for conversations, I feel it's inauthentic. You know, Tara, I'm not sure about that because, you know, if you're going to a party and you're worried that you won't have anything to say, it's reasonable to sort of think about, well, if I want to share something, I want to stay present so I can relate to what's going on. But I also might want to think about, oh, you know, I read that book, that was really good, that's something that I could share. Or I saw that movie, which I really didn't like, which, you know, I can remember to say. Or just to really focus on what's happening around you and respond in the moment. And that really is the you know, optimal situation, particularly for people who struggle with social anxiety, because what happens is you end up in your head, you end up thinking about what other people are thinking about you, and then you can't be present. So we really want to try to be present. And the mindfulness handout that I gave you is something that I think will really help you with that. And I'm just putting that up again. Alexandria, I'm bad at small talk. It sounds like we might need to have a Facebook Live about small talk. Interrupting, yes. Tara, yeah, I agree. Small talk is very important to build connections, right? So you start off small and then you kind of can unpack to something a little deeper. Can't relax, always have things I need to be doing. That's true for a lot of people with ADHD. Jason, I go back and forth with self-confidence and self-doubt in my internal speech. I want to start a nonprofit with mental health and substance abuse. I have confidence, and then the self-doubt comes back into play. So that self-doubt is a part of you that's trying to protect you from the pain of failure or disappointment. And really what we want to do is comfort it in a way and say, it's okay, you know what, I've got it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure out the next thing. Rather than try to, you know, push it to the side, because the more that you try to push that negative voice to the side, it more comes back with its fists up fighting. I end up oversharing without practicing and preparing in advance. And oversharing is something that we see a lot for people with ADHD, and I know this is something that I do, and you know, it's like it'll come out of my mouth and I'll think, oh, why did I say that? That was too much, right? It was not the right thing to do. This is what I tell myself, right? So even, you know, I mean, I think that it's important to remember that lots of people do it. And sometimes we overshare because we're nervous. That happens to me. Sometimes I overshare because I'm excited. That happens to me. Sometimes I overshare because I'm trying to connect. And I think if I say more, it'll foster the connection, when in actuality it's actually pulling someone away. So oversharing is something that we can monitor by looking at how people are responding to what we're saying. What is their facial reaction, and also noticing how much airtime we've been taking up. Michaela, small talk is not my problem. My problem is the rush of revealing gossip or secrets. Oh, that's very interesting, Michaela. So you're someone who does not keep secrets. I'm not super big on keeping secrets either, but I'm also not really interested in gossiping. So there's a rush, I think, when people reveal gossip or secrets, because it makes them feel like they are relevant and connected in a particular kind of way. But then there's often a backlash because there's some privacy that's been violated. It's a challenge. Craig says, sometimes I get defensive with others when I'm tired of my own criticism, of course. So many people today need to learn how to retain lessons from good experiences, so that the voice in our head is not just one of like walking around a dangerous neighborhood, but is actually one of being in a beautiful park where the sun is shining and maybe you sit on a swing, or you're at a picnic table with some friends having a lovely meal. So this type of these lessons from good experiences, things that are going well, are important, because this positive reinforcement helps us grow, learn new skills, and be self-confident. All important contributors to living a fulfilling life. If you find that your negative thinking is getting in the way of a more positive outlook, I want to tell you that change is possible. So let me share some approaches that can help adults with ADHD overcome negative thinking and lead to a more rewarding and productive life. So the first thing we want to do is to focus on positive experiences, beneficial situations, exchanges, activities that not only serve as the foundation for self-esteem and self-management, but also nourish our inner strengths. So in order for the good moments to outmaneuver the negativity bias that's natural in our brain, that the things that really flags situations that are might be threatening to us, or something that we've done that didn't pan out, this negativity to survive in the jungle, right? In order for these good moments to outmaneuver the negativity bias, they have to be installed in the brain's neural structures. And this process requires them held in the working memory long enough to be transferred down the memory line to long-term memory. Many folks with ADHD, by definition, struggle with working memory challenges. So this transfer often doesn't occur as frequently as we would like, if at all. So the key is to focus on positive thoughts and experiences more frequently, to write them down, to not be afraid of having a Post-it that says, oh my goodness, my boss loved my report, and just write a Post-it. Instead of having my friend Brendan Mahan, who's a neurodivergent ADHD coach and expert, he talks about something called the wall of awful. I like to talk about the wall of good things. So what are some positive things that have happened? You can have a bulletin board of Post-its of things that you feel good about. And why not? Because if you can't hold on to those and remember them, no one is going to do that for you. And that's not about narcissism. That's about actually nurturing self-esteem in the face of a very powerful negative internal voice. So by gradually paying more and more attention to the things that are going well, you'll get to that long enough period where your working memory will hold it long enough to sort of reverse or turn down the volume on the negativity bias, because we probably can't reverse it. It's just something that we have, but we could turn the volume down. This means that we're going to live in the power of yet, instead of in the shadow of I can't. By accepting that life is a series of reasonable risks that we take. We weigh the costs and the benefits of things. And we are spontaneous when the time is right. And when we do this, we turn up the volume on our optimism and our confidence. You pay more attention to things that are going well and your innate talents, to building resources to assist you when the going gets tough. And you learn to distinguish between real threats and distortions that mimic them. So how are we going to lower the noise of this internal chatter, this negativity, this fear that we have to really pay attention to all of the things that could happen, the bad things that could happen, instead of actually shifting our attention more to the positive outcomes, things that have gone well. If you don't do this, I would really encourage you to do it. I do it myself. Every night before I go to bed, I write down 3 things that went well that day. And they don't have to be long. Sometimes there's 5 things or 6, and sometimes I can barely squeak out the 3rd. But I write them down, and what helps me is I can go back now for a year and see the 3 things that went well. And that helps me pay more attention to what is going well, which is, a challenge for so many of us, and particularly those of us who are anxious. That can be tough. So before I get into the 5 approaches to really overcoming negative thinking, I want to kind of come back to the chat here. Let's see. Michaela says, especially if I see the same behavior. Sometimes I get defensive, especially if you see the same behavior in your teens. Yes. Tracy says, sometimes my son, seems almost grandiose. The positives feel overstated, which do not seem to translate into real self-esteem. Yes, we call this bravado. And we can see this a lot in kids who feel insecure underneath. So they're putting out a story about how great they are and how skilled they are on the basketball court and in the math class, and they're really kind of talking themselves up. When underneath, we can really see that actually the self-esteem is quite low. And so they're doing this, I think, to try to mask that lower self-esteem and hope that they can hide it from other people. And what they're missing is that there's a kind of disingenuousness that goes along with that bravado that also is something that can really sort of push people away. And so we want to work with kids who are engaging in that bravado to talk about the effect that that's having on others. As much as we can, and sort of helping them think through a risk of sharing an authentic part of themselves. Mirka says, what would you say about why small steps or small victories are important? My ex-husband used to laugh and tease me for making what I thought was progress. Well, your ex-husband didn't seem like he really was very kind, so probably good that he's your ex now, I guess. But small steps are really important because small steps build on each other to actually create, something substantial. We don't, if we are only looking for the big victories, we're going to be much more disappointed more often. That's why the 3 things per day is so helpful, because it can be small. I like my shirt that I wore. I had a meeting with somebody at work, and I ordered this fantastic coffee and I loved it. It doesn't have to be, I'm like the champion of the world here. It can be something small. We want to acknowledge those small victories because there's a cumulative effect of positivity that's important for us to both develop and hold on to. Yeah, that's right. Michaela, truthfully glad he's your ex. Yeah, you don't need that. I agree. Is this the same as gratitude? I think it's different, actually, because I think a gratitude is really appreciating what you have in your life and the relationships. I'm talking about actually shifting your focus from what isn't working to what is working, from thinking about what's going to go wrong to what could go right, and paying attention to that. Susan says, I kept a thankfulness journal for over a year. It was very uplifting. Some were very simple, and I didn't beat myself up if I missed a day. Bravo. Maybe some days you miss a day. That's okay, but you're making an effort. That's really inspiring. I agree. Thank you, Tara, for saying that. So let's move on to the 5 approaches to overcome negative thinking. So the first, number 1 thing is to slow down and become a bit more mindful. When something good happens, when something positive occurs, relish it. In our ultra fast-paced world, everybody moves on to the next thing. Oh yeah, that happened, but now I'm working on this other problem. No. Slow down. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy something that went well. Enjoy an exhibit if you go to a museum that you really liked. Enjoy a delicious ice cream. Enjoy your kids telling you that they love you, or playing a game of Uno, with the family. Or holding hands with someone that you really love. Enjoy those things. And yes, there's an aspect of gratitude, but there's also about relishing the positive, because we move on to the next thing that needs to be done or isn't working so quickly. That the important integration of that thing that went well, that's necessary to consolidate in our memory that we can hold on to it, can be missed. Slow down by taking a more mindful approach to your day. Mindfulness is the ability to be fully present and aware of our current thoughts, feelings, and actions without being reactive to or overwhelmed by what's going on around you. Mindfulness allows you to understand yourself better and to be more in tune with the inner workings of your mind and your body. You can practice mindfulness because it's about practicing. It's not about getting it right, and it allows you to bring awareness to your mental, emotional, and physical self, and to bring awareness to your mental, emotional, and physical self, and to connect more deeply with your experiences, which of course you could collect also, right? So mindfulness helps us pay attention to something in the present moment without judgment or shame. So I just stumbled on my words. I noticed that I did that, but I smiled and I laughed about it, and I know you're a very kind and accepting audience, so I'm not going to run that around my head like, oh, you messed your word up. Everybody can do that. We're going to notice our emotions or sensations without interpreting them. I notice that I'm feeling a little nervous as I'm getting closer. My car is getting closer to this dinner party I'm going to. I'm feeling a little shaky in my stomach. I'm noticing that. I'm not judging it. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not going into a panic about it. I'm just noticing it. Accept yourself as you are in a given moment. I'm feeling nervous right now. It's natural to feel nervous for some people before they go to a party. Nervousness and excitement can be 2 sides of the same coin, so I could look at it like I'm excited. That's an option too. And practice compassion for yourself and with others. And that compassion is about accepting that you're human, that you will have moments where you stumble, and you will have moments where you feel like, what was that line from the Titanic? I'm the king of the world, right? We want to be able to, be kinder to ourselves. When I think about practicing self-compassion, what I think about is how I would talk to a 10-year-old in front of me with a skin knee, and how I might talk to myself, because they are not the same thing. And that is often the problem, particularly for people who grow up with ADHD and are told they're not this, they're not that, they're missing X, Y, Z, P, Q, etc. See and accept the fullness of your experiences. The gray, the black, the purple, the yellow, the white, all of the colors of the experience, because that's what being human is about. And that helps us transform our negative thinking into something that's more colorful instead and less judgmental. And finally, one of the things that we want to do that with mindfulness, which is such a key element, is to break old habits and create new ones, because we're noticing instead of judging. So as the saying goes, I want to stop, slow down, and smell the roses. Release the pressure to stay focused at all times, and give yourself some time for your mind to wander. Brains need to wander. If you've ever noticed when you're working on something like a project, and then suddenly you gotta go take a shower because you're going to meet your mother for dinner, or you have to get to a meeting and you have to drive, that there's still churning that's going on in your brain. So we want to make sure that we allow ourselves to wander, and some of that wandering is relishing something that went well. So take time to notice when something feels good and reflect on that experience. Maybe you enjoyed your favorite lunch in the park. Maybe a coworker complimented you on a job well done. Or maybe you just woke up feeling good that day and you're looking forward to seeing a movie with a friend later. Catch these positive feelings in the moment and savor them. Okay? And that savoring is different than gratitude. Gratitude is, I'm so appreciative that I'm so grateful. I'm really that I had this time with you, going to the movies and hanging out. That's different than actually being in the moment and really appreciating the specialness of it. So the second tip is to reflect on the day's highs and lows. Practice doing the highs and lows of the day at dinner with friends or family. If other people aren't around, you can journal, as I talked about before. And by doing this exercise, you can create a safe place to hold both the positive and a more negative occurrence simultaneously, giving them equal weight. And this process helps build, more balance in your neural pathways and what you're paying attention to. And to avoid dwelling on the lows too long, try to think of an actionable way to bounce back from them. And this will help build your resilience and boost confidence. Here are a couple examples. I was too distracted at work today and didn't finish what I promised to do. Tomorrow, I will find a quiet place to focus on my project. Or I feel bad that I forgot to wish my parents happy anniversary. I'll set up a reminder to call them in the morning. I know they'll be happy to hear from me even if it's a day late, right? So we have something that we have this thought, and then we have a counter thought that is an action that can change it. And for some families or couples, daily highs and lows are too much to do. So maybe you do them once a week, like at a Sunday dinner or a family gathering, where your primary family is getting together. So let's look at some of the comments here. It's not clicking in. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. All right. Mirka Sharon Salzberg has a great book about self and compassion. She's amazing. She's really amazing. And on Insight Timer, she offers a course that's great, and in other places as well. She's a great meditation coach too. That's right. Sherry Huber's a mindfulness inspiration. Laura says, it's challenging to stay focused on what you're saying because my mind starts daydreaming. That's fine. You can daydream and then come back, and you can always watch this on the replay. If I'm saying something and your mind is kind of grabs onto it and goes further, that's kind of cool. Maybe it wants you to learn something or think about something that I'm not talking about, but that's important for you. Let's see. Tracy, my son makes all kinds of plans and intentions and does not follow through and then beats himself up for it. Oy vey. Yes, oy vey. So I think for kids and for adults is we want to, reel in how many plans and intentions that you can do. Because you have these grand intentions and plans. You're going to do X and this and Y and this and Z and that, and then you're like at 6 things, instead of just maybe picking 1 or 2, but you actually can start and see through to the end. Michaela, I like that you turn the phone call to do as a positive. They would still be happy to hear from me. That's right. They would still be happy to hear from you. Mitzi says, I'm great at making lists, but then too tired to do anything. So Mitzi, a lot of people are great at making lists, and then they feel like the list is overwhelming, or the list itself becomes something to avoid. I would encourage, if you make a list, that's great. Make a second list with 1 or 2 items from that first list that you actually can accomplish and interest you, so that again you start to feel like the ball is rolling and you're heading in a direction of efficacy. Susan, yikes, do you have a handout on these points? I couldn't write it all down. Some of this is in my mindfulness thing that I shared with you. Okay. All right, the third thing is to seek supportive connections. So these days there's a lot to be upset about in the world, and we don't have control over many, many things. But we can regulate or control who we welcome into our lives and what we welcome into our lives. And we can seek out people who are kind and understanding and supportive. We can't always do that at the workplace, but in our personal lives, we can do that. We can't always do that with our family, but we can, sort of control how much time we spend with them, and maybe not go by ourselves, bring a friend or a partner, something like that. Adults with ADHD benefit from a support system of people who really understand your particular challenges and can prop you up if you're stuck in a negative mindset. Friends, neighbors, relatives, coworkers, open yourself up to those people who bring positivity and caring into your life, because that will again shift your focus to positivity, and it will fill in that positivity bucket in your brain that might have a little teeny hole that has to be stopped up, so that you can actually start to collect the water that you can drink of these rewarding interactions and thoughts that are noticing what is going well. When you create good memories and enjoy the positive experiences of them, these nurture strong relationships and also build new neural pathways that continue to create and strengthen your own inner resources. So that's really important. The fourth tip is the mind-body connection. So of course, exercise and physical well-being have a positive impact on our emotions and our state of mind. A walk, a bike ride, or even dancing can improve your mood just as much as provide you with an energy boost. Yoga, meditation, Tai Chi are all types of mindfulness and body awareness tools that can help you focus and shift your mentality from what isn't working to what could work. And of course, physical activity keeps you away from screens, so you're not involved in compare and despair. You're not on Facebook, you're not on Instagram, you're not on Snapchat. You're actually engaged in the world, working your body and doing something that's good for you. And the fifth tip is to keep up with a growth mindset. Now, for adults with ADHD, that pull towards negativity and retaining negative, critical, unpleasant experiences can be long-standing and ingrained. And shifting this course can be an uphill challenge. I hear that. I know that. I work with many people who struggle with this, but it is possible to improve this and be successful with practice and patience. So take things one day at a time and use that growth mindset. A growth mindset says, I'm going to try something, I'm going to see what happens, I may stumble. If I do, that's okay. I'm going to try to learn from that stumble. I'm going to pick myself up and we're going to move forward. If it works out, that's great. I'll do more of it. Okay, so really think about one of my key mottos, which is do more of what works. and focus your brain on that, because your negativity will say, well, that's not going to work. That didn't work before. Why is it going to work now? And you're going to say, I'm trying it in a different way. I have different supports. People come to therapy to see me and they'll say, well, I've tried therapy before. I don't know why you're going to help. And I'll say, well, you haven't had therapy with me. And so let's give it a 3-month try and see where we are in 3 months. We want that to happen. So gradually increase the good moments of your days and then keep building them like a stack of blocks. If you have a setback, no big deal. Acknowledge it. Maybe you fall. Maybe it's, the tower crumbles, but you dust yourself off and you start building again. This is what resilience is about. Resilience comes from the Latin word to dance, to come back and pick yourself up. And that's really important. So let me go and see what people are saying here in the chat. Okay. Heather, I've been doing meditations offered by the Smithsonian Museum of Asian Art every week. Oh, fantastic. That's so cool. They've been helping me a lot with anxiety and emotional regulation. I need practice regularly or my improvements regress. Right, and so having a group or a structure to do that can be very useful. Good for you. Craig, I've spiraled for hours thinking about politics or my son's safety at school, trying to fall asleep. Right, so we want to really shift away from those kinds of thoughts because we can't control them. Toxic worry is really something that is all about things we can't control, versus productive worry, like, am I going to make it to my class on time? If I leave early enough, I will, is about things we can control. So I would encourage you, if you can, not think about politics, or read some fiction or something like that to help you fall asleep, or maybe do some of the meditations on Headspace or Insight Timer. They're great. Tara, I am a very kind, supportive, understanding person. I am trying to set up a local support group for women with ADHD, but I suffer from rejection sensitivity. I have so much to offer and share. I'm forcing myself not to give up. Just diagnosed in May at age 55. Good for you. After my 26-year-old daughter was diagnosed in November. Wow, that's amazing. So want to help others to not go through what I went through as an isolated mom, teacher, counselor. That's so great. Thank you so much for sharing. And I want to encourage you not to give up and to maybe look into CHAD or ADA. CHAD is children and adults with ADHD, and ADA is adults with ADHD. I think ADA is add.org and CHAD is chadd.org. I think. I don't know if it's .com. These might have some resources for you or groups in your area as well. Tara says, I end up feeling what's wrong with me. And why are people not jumping in? I would jump in with me, but it's LOL, but it's true. Trying to keep focusing on the positives and keep the door open. Wish me luck. So tired of selling myself short. Oh, you don't need to sell yourself short anymore. You need to sell yourself long. Michaela, I was 27 and my mom was 47 when diagnosed. Wow. Since then, almost everyone in our family has been diagnosed. This is incredible. All from an article I read in Glamour magazine. Fantastic. Well, now there's all kinds of articles and resources for you here at Attitude as well. And I encourage you to, once again, download my little gift here about mindfulness, and check out my website where I have lots of free resources, as well as my Facebook page. Like me and we'll be friends forever. Let's see, Michaela, I wish we were closer because I'd start that group with you. That's so sweet. Susan, I've been pulling weeds and planting new native plants. Dirt, water, and sunshine are good medicine. So are the butterflies that join me. That's such a lovely image. Thank you so much for sharing. Chad hasn't responded to me. Nothing in my area. Tara, don't give up. Chad is a very busy organization. Keep trying. I really encourage you to keep trying. Paula, I need help as a retired person with undiagnosed ADHD, 63 years old. Well, I would encourage you to certainly look at the library, the incredible library of webinars and other resources and articles in attitudemag.com. I'm just such a great fan of theirs. And because people asked, because I was speaking quickly, I'm going to write down, I'm going to put in the chat right now the 5 steps, the 5 approaches to overcoming negative thinking. Okay, so you can have this to use for yourself. Hold on a second. All right, here we go. Oops. Thanks for being patient with me here. Cutting and pasting is not the quickest thing. Okay. And all right. Okay, so let's just review. Today we've talked about, that internal speech and how many people are, really focused on those negative voices, and we want to grow and develop the more encouraging voices, the inner allies. And we want to focus, really take in and savor experiences or accolades or awards or positive feedback that we receive, and not just dismiss it. Make sure you write it down in your 3 good things of every day, or make a wall of good things and put it up, put your post-it on your wall or a bulletin board or something like that. And we want to remember these 5 approaches to slow down and become more mindful. Use mindfulness, develop mindfulness, practice it, reflect on your day's highs and lows. Do those 3 good things that happen every day. Seek supportive connections, people who understand you and will encourage you and really love you. Nurture the mind-body connection so that you're exercising and you're taking care of your physical well-being, which will kind of bathe your brain in those wonderful endorphins that we all love so much. And finally, keep things up with a growth mindset. Remember that a growth mindset means you're trying. You may stumble. You're going to pick yourself up and try again. A fixed mindset is, I am the way I am. I'm not going to grow or change no matter what happens. And I just don't believe that's true about human beings, about you or me or anybody who that we know. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I'd love to take 1 or 2 more questions. I'll take 1 more question actually, because we've run a bit over. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask before we wrap up? I'll wait a minute to see if there's anything in the comments. The thing that I really want you to really hold on to is this idea of doing more of what works, and start building the good today by noticing what is going well. Pay as much attention to what is going well as what isn't working. Pay more attention to what's going well, because that negativity voice does not need any more fuel. It's plenty strong. Thank you so much for joining me. It was really great to be together, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Take care. It's in 2 weeks. We meet every 2 weeks. We did have a longer break in June because I was away, but we'll be every 2 weeks now for the next several months. So I look forward to seeing you. Have a good weekend, and go out there and start to notice the positive in your life. Thank you. Have a great day. I'm struggling to figure out how to close this, so I apologize. Okay, that's because my screen is doing some weird things. Yep, it's not a good techno day for me. Oh well. Thank you all. It was really great to be here, and I so appreciate your comments and your sharing and your honesty. Bye.